Thanks for joining us here on a Friday. I'm Marlin Bohling, your tour guide to your ag commodity markets. But we also look at the outside markets from time to time. In fact, we had the Dow that had a big surge this morning. We can take a look at what the Dow is doing right now. I know a lot of folks very interested in this. Well, with all the trade talk and discussion going on around the country and around the globe, things really firming up today. Of course, we had some jobs data that came out this morning, and it was much more impressive than what the trade had expected. So the Dow has really been on a tear today, and we have it up about 328 points right now. Now 329, and on the way up the way it looks. 25,224 is where it now stands on the Dow Jones Industrial Average. And let's take a look at the dollar value. The dollar had been just a touch firmer when we came on the air this morning. And right now you have the March U.S. dollar index futures trading 140 points lower at 90.020. So keep that in mind. Crude oil trade, by the way, on the West Texas Intermediate crude this morning and now heading into the noon hour is trading $1.77 higher, really firming as we go. April now at 61.89 per barrel. Let's take a look at our corn market, and we had the corn under pressure this morning. That was kind of a spillover from the overnight trade, and right now we have the May corn down 3 1/4 at 3.90 1/4, and December now down 3 1/2 at 4.06 3/4. Why, you might ask? Well, let's find out. Let's go to the trading floor and talk with Scott Gecas. Scott happens to be with Longleaf Trading, and he joins us right now. Hey, Scott, why the weakness in the corn trade here?
The corn being the weakness in the corn is just definitely due to exports. They were raised to about 177 million tons. Brazil corn prices are skyrocketing. It's a double-edged sword with the corn prices in particular. Prices in Brazil are going higher. Prices here in the States are going lower. Cumulative sales are still, within range, about 79% versus the 5-year average, about 74%. It's a surprising pullback with this corn. We still remain bullish above 390, so we're going to see how the rest of the day plays out with the corn market in particular.
Biggest losses today are in the soybean trade, and if we take a look at where they are now trading on the May contract on the soybeans, down 18 3/4 now at 10.45 1/4. We're still within a penny of our low of the day, and we have July down 18 3/4 at 10.54 1/4. Technically, how much downside risk is there in this soybean trade?
Well, with the soybean trade in particular, you've seen this huge run up. You've seen the net fund managers be net long. Obviously, they're just switching to net short. This bearish number from yesterday, it was the highest ever on record, 55 versus 555 versus 529. The weather in Argentina is adding to the selling pressure. They're slashing the exports by about 185 million tons. Production's still light. That very poor condition continues to rise. The export sales are one of the biggest concerns right now. That's sparking, that's going to spark export cuts. A break of 1060 really flipped the whole trend. We expect to see, a test of all the way down to 1030.
Now on the wheat trade, we've had a lot of weakness in the wheat trade today too. Let's go check it out. Let's go to Chicago May, where we're down 12 1/2. 486 3/4. July down 12 1/2 at 502 3/4. And on the Kansas City market, you have the May contract down 13 3/4 at 519 1/2. July down 13 3/4 at 536 1/4. Is that justified, do you think, Scott?
Yeah, the wheat prices too. The USDA report came out, that's bearish. However, that was being offset by the weather. So it's, a back and forth trade. That drop monitor is roughly around 39% right now. The dry weather has concerns with the crops being able to, sustain those taking root. So we're going to see how that plays out. The supply and demand right now are negative. Exports were still lower by 25%. So with the wheat market in particular, we need to hold around that 490 level. We've seen that break of 500 yesterday. It didn't even test it. It blew right through it. So you're seeing a lot of funds coming in from net long to net short. So we got to wait and see how this is all going to play out in the next few days.
All right, a quick peek at our cotton market as well. The cotton, after a big day yesterday, is down 58 points on the May at 84.54, and December new crop just 2 points higher at 78.51 as it narrows up that spread a little bit today. Scott, we'll come back in just a moment, and you and I will walk through the cattle and the hog markets, find out what's going on there when we come back. And we're back. We're going to take a look at our livestock trade here, and we're talking right now with Scott Gecas. He is with Longleaf Trading, and he's talking with us direct from the trading floor in Chicago. I want to focus now on the livestock trade. I see where we have moved a few cash cattle today. It was a very active day yesterday, and anything basically from about 125.5 all the way up to 128 yesterday. Now I see where this morning we have moved a few hundred in Kansas at 127. So I guess that would be fairly close to where the average was yesterday, wouldn't it?
Yeah, the average is right there within that, not really, bullish or bearish, based on those. But that USDA report yesterday sparked heavy selling, triggering a bunch of stops. It lowered production by 90 million in the first quarter. However, it did increase production in the second quarter. That's the highest since 1970. So the weights are still increasing. Export sales are about 19% higher. Cutout continues to rise. The supply and the trade war talks are a little bit bearish. Prices are still holding steady, but we need to hold that 122 mark. That break below that, it still remains bearish.
So when you talk with other traders out there on the trading floor, just how much concern is there, realistically, about any kind of trade dispute and the fact that it may or may not hurt our meat exports?
Yeah, with the trade war talks, it goes back and forth. The U.S. president's talking out of both sides of his mouth, said the tariffs right off the bat. Then the other day he came out and said he's going to exempt Canada and Mexico. So, until any of that plays out, you got to just sit and wait back and see. If they get a positive result out of NAFTA, instead of 25%, they might just lower to 15 to 10%. But either way, you still got to wait and see how that news plays out.
Let's look at our futures. Let's go to the live cattle board right now, and we'll see what's going on. By the way, the wholesale beef trade was higher today, and the live cattle market firming up. April now up $1.47. We're trading at 123.25 per hundredweight. We have June up $1 at 114.28, and the August live cattle now 65 higher, and now 60 higher at 111.85. Meanwhile, if we look at the feeder cattle market at the present time, we have the March contract $1.10 higher. We have April up half a dollar at 143.50 per hundredweight. That's about 45 cents off our high of the day, $1.50 from our earlier low this morning, so a big turnaround there. May feeders now 67 higher at 145.12. Meanwhile, lean hog trade, it was mixed this morning. Right now we have April down 30 at 67.78. The May is unchanged at 72.35. June down 45 at 77.80. If you had to venture a guess, do you think they're going to post negative closes today, or do you think it can rebound here heading into the weekend, Scott?
With the hog market, the biggest thing that everyone's focused on is the belly market. The belly market's driving that hog prices down. That break of 68, that's a very significant level. You've seen a lot of selling pressure with that. You've seen some stops get triggered. It does have room to go all the way down to 64. It does have a gap fill, from a few months ago. So we're going to see how that plays out. But under 68, we're looking to the downside.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Scott Gecas of Longleaf Trading in Chicago. So there you have it in a nutshell, Janet. Latest run through on the markets.
All right. Well, as always, thank you for keeping us up to date.